So I am Sascha Adler. I'm the lead application developer at Canadiana. And I'm going to be talking about why Canadiana we're so interested in IIIF. So for those of you who don't know what we do at Canadiana, we do the whole pipeline from digitization to preservation to access. We have a team of catalogers and scanners that make digital assets, and then we preserve them in our trustworthy digital repository, and then provide access to them online. Some of our collections are free, some of our collections are subscription-based. So, we specialize in early Canadian history, but we have collections with all sorts of stuff in it. So, so to talk about why we want to actually adopt IIIF at Canadiana, I'm going to talk about access at Canadiana. I got hired at Canadiana to build websites, and so while I'm the lead developer now, that's still a primary focus of mine. Right now, if you're looking at something that we serve, you're getting it from one of two places. The easier one to explain is the content server we call COS. It serves derivative images of digital assets, and we also have direct file access. Some of our things you can download a full PDF of a book or whatever. And now everything else goes through something called CAP. CAP used to be called, maybe a long time ago, the Canadiana Access platform. It does everything, presentations, search, user and institution authentication, then subscriptions for users and institutions. We have some administrative tools. We have a CMS. We have stuff I have probably forgotten about, even though I wrote it 5 years ago. It's a monolith. It is huge, and it's become very difficult to maintain and update. I do all the front end work, and our front end is very 2013, and I'd love to bring it into the present, but that requires going through and making sure it all works with everything this piece of software does. So we're very excited to move from this monolith to a modular approach where we have smaller and interconnected services, and so that will help us improve our code base, and we can work on one thing, make sure it works without having to worry that we're breaking everything all at once. And IIIF is helping us think about this a lot because first off, because we're going to have these multiple services that will be publicly accessible, it would be great to have them actually serving open internationally adopted standards. And the second reason is we can actually start replacing some of our the modules we built on our own with community-built software, and that will mean we end up maintaining less code. We're not a very big team, so that is a very good for us. We also would love to actually provide our content with public APIs. As of right now, you can only access our stuff through our web interface, which is hopefully fine for most people, but it would be really, really good to actually have a proper API for programmatic consumption of our content. And IIIF helps us think about new features. As Peter mentioned, annotations are very powerful. We have, for some of our collections, we have some tags. We would love to get transcriptions for some of our handwritten collections that OCR just doesn't work on at all. We've been talking about the wonderful dream that would be search term highlighting, on top of our images, and the IIIF annotation spec makes this possible to even think about. We don't have to worry about coming up with exactly how it's all going to work. We just have to make sure it conforms to the specification. We don't do tiled image rendering at all right now. We also have wanted to do that for years. Turns out we can just adopt IIIF standards and then put in a viewer, and then there you go. I wrote our current page viewer a few years ago. It's okay. It's not that great. I don't know if any of you've worked with it. We've been wanting to add new features to it for a long time, and this will help us out a lot. So we've been working with IIIF for about 6 months. Our metadata architect, Julianne Pascoe, who came to Access a couple of years ago, she told us about it, told me and Russell McCorman, the lead systems guy who came to Access last year. We kind of trade off. She told us about it about 7-8 months ago. By the time Russell and I got to looking into it, we were like, we need to be doing this yesterday. This is fantastic. This serves our needs perfectly. So we've been at it for about 6 months. So what have we looked into so far? The first thing is Cantaloupe. Cantaloupe is a derivative image server that follows the IIIF Image API. It comes out of the Medusa project, which I think is based in the University of Illinois, Urbana-Champaign. It's written in Java. It handles JPEGs, JPEG 2000s, TIFFs. It even handles generating derivative images from PDFs, which is great because we actually have some Born Digital PDFs in our repository now. It's very easy to configure. There are two files you have to worry about. One with just some properties. One is a script file for custom authorization and for figuring out how to actually find the file you're looking for. So you can see our configuration and the Docker image we use to actually push this to production on our GitHub. I'll provide the slides later so you can all actually click on that. Now we also, our original content server does direct file access. Cantaloupe doesn't do that, so we spun that out into a little mini service that works in a similar way, but it's just our own thing. And I've also, and I'll show you the demo of this, rewritten the CAP image viewer to make requests with the IIIF Image API. The other thing is our presentation API demo. So what this is doing is it's converting our internal presentation documents that we serve from basically from our repository to CAP. And it's converting those documents into IIIF collections and IIIF manifests. This was mostly done as a learning exercise to make sure we knew how to actually generate manifests and what things we needed to pull out from our repository to make this possible. It actually wasn't that hard. It was a pretty straightforward thing to do, and the output of this can be plugged into IIIF compatible viewers, and I'll show you that in a moment. So note on authentication. Unfortunately, because some of our stuff is subscription-based, this is something we have to care about. So our Cantaloupe configuration works where it's only handling authorized requests. This is how our original content server also does it, and it's pretty easy to configure Cantaloupe to make this work. Full integration of the IIIF authentication API is going to take some more work. We have to do a lot of work in our backend to actually be able to say, given a user and an image, what rights does this request actually have? So that's going to take some time, and but it's very much doable, and yeah. So yeah, like I said, that's one of our next steps. The next one is our internal presentation output. We might as well just generate IIIF manifest from that, and then we can have that be a service available to the public. We're going to evaluate IIIF viewers. The one you saw with Peter was Mirador. There's one I'm going to show you called Universal Viewer, and going to look into which one would be best, easiest to integrate with our web client. And we are definitely going to be looking into how our internal data models are going to work to make annotations happen. This is a thing we've wanted to do for a long time, and it's very exciting, and hopefully we'll have something to show for it soon. And so I'm going to show a demo, but that's just thank you for me. You can see a lot of our updates. We are actually putting stuff on GitHub now. There's been a lot of activity there over the last few months, so you can always check that out. C7A is, of course, the techie shortening of Canadiana. And if you have any questions for me, after our questions session right now, you can find me on Twitter. I usually tweet about hockey. Sorry about that. But you can find me there. So, anyways. So this is a demonstration. This website is demonstration software. The difference between this and our actual site is the images you're getting here are served by Cantaloupe. They're not served by our content server. So this thing, I tweeted a picture from this yesterday. This is a written in 1908. It's a pamphlet encouraging people to move to Saskatoon, which was a boom city at the time. It has some amazing prose in it. If you want to read about the psychology of Saskatoon, you know, the ineffable charm, peculiarly its own, has been great. I've really enjoyed it these past few days. And yeah, so this is, it was very easy to rewrite our viewer to make requests in the form of the IIIF image API requests. It works the same way. This thing unfortunately just loads big images as you zoom in sort of a bounding box. That's how we do that. And it was very easy to craft IIIF image API request to make that happen. The other thing that this offers is a link to a IIIF manifest for this particular book. And this is what that looks like in JSON. You see these at properties here are part of the JSON LD spec. So, and that's, yeah, I'll just drill down through this very quickly. I know it's a little, you know, it's a little much. Now, so the way this works is your manifest has sequences. A sequence is just the ordering of the pages in it. You can have multiple sequences. If, say, you scanned something one way, but you actually want to present it a different way, you can serve both. All of ours just have the one for now, and we call it physical because that's how we determine this. And then, so each sequence has a list of canvases. The canvas has a height and width, and for canvases, it's really kind of just there to make sure that you know the aspect ratio, because a canvas is kind of an abstract concept that you paint things on, including the images. So we just have one image per canvas. The image is an annotation, and so when we get further annotations with this, they will be added in. There's another property called annotations that do that. And this is where the manifest understands where the images are actually served. So when I take this manifest and I paste it into the viewer, that's how it's determining how to actually load the images. So I have this thing here, the IIIF preview is part of this demo. This is just a thing that will set a cookie at the image server that says, yeah, you can see anything you want. So there, it's set. I keep doing that. So I hope this works. So here, what I'm doing is I'm pasting the manifest file that we've generated through the demo into Universal Viewer. And if it agrees with me, gotta love live demos. Oh, that's disappointing. Let me try Mirador, actually. All right, there it is. So you can now see these images come from the same place, and you can actually zoom in, and it will progressively load a better zoom. And all those features are enabled out of the box through Cantaloupe, and yeah, this is all done from our system, but without actually using any of our web, our actual web client, and it's pretty straightforward to make happen, and it's really cool. So yeah, so that is IIIF at Canadiana so far, and hopefully we'll have a lot more news to share about that in the future.
Peter, do you want to come up here? So we have some time for some combined questions. If you have any, just step up to the mic so we can hear you on the broadcast.
I have one to start, if you need someone to break the ice. Just curious, we talked a little bit about this, I think. Have you started thinking about an annotation server, and do you think that's a service you'll actually get into, running your own, or?
So we're at the very basic level thinking about that so far. So I don't really have a good answer for that yet. All I know is it's going to combine with our presentation service in such a way that we'll actually be able to show this stuff. That's basically it.
I'll ask you again next year.
Yeah.